This video is to demonstrate the routine maintenance and troubleshooting you will have to do with your well system in your utility room. We're going to start with the pressure tank, which is this blue tank. You'll notice that you have your main water shut off to the house right here. Perpendicular means water is off. Parallel means water is on. Most importantly, the two items that you're going to need to look at the most are this pressure gauge, and then in the event that this pressure gauge is at zero, you'll need to utilize this priming switch, which is the gray box right next to the pressure gauge. The pressure gauge should always be running somewhere between 35 and 50 pounds of pressure. That is going to fluctuate as you use water throughout the house and the pump kicks in and out. However, in the event that the well loses prime, which is likely due to a power outage, if there's no power and you don't have a generator, then unfortunately you won't be able to use water until the power is restored. If you try to use water while the power is out, you're basically going to lose prime in your well lines, which means that when the power comes back on, you will not have water automatically. That's not a big deal. It just means that you have to come out and prime the lines using this switch over here. So in that event, this pressure gauge would be showing zero. All you're going to do is utilize this little switch here. When you pull up on it, you're going to hear it click and you're going to hear water start gushing. You have to keep holding that switch while the water is gushing until you see this pressure gauge climb from 10, 20, 30, 40 to 50 or 60 range. Once you're at that 50 pounds of pressure, you can let go and the well lines are primed and everything will be running automatic from there. Sometimes you may find that you have to choke off the main water valve just to create a little bit of back pressure while you're priming, and then once the lines are primed, then you can open it back up all the way. In the event that there is a bad water leak in the house of any sort, the first place that you should come is to this water valve and cut off the water supply to the house until the leak is located and either isolated or fixed by a plumber. Once you isolate the valves to a sink or a toilet, you are able to turn on the water supply to the rest of the house, but I would let a plumber determine whether it's time to turn that back on or not. But definitely the right place to go in an emergency. Also, if you're going away on vacation for an extended period of time, especially in the winter, it's a good idea to shut off that valve in case we have a bad winter storm or power outage, so that lines, even if they do freeze up and leak, there's only a limited amount of water that can leak because the supply is shut off. Next in line is a very important filter, which will affect your water pressure as well as quality. As you can see right now, this one is extremely dirty and clogged up, so I'm going to show you how to properly drain that and clean it. This is something that is going to have to be done as needed, not necessarily every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Every well is different, and this one looks like it's been building up quite a bit of sediment and iron over time. When the last time it was cleaned is, I do not know, but it's not in good shape. So first thing we're going to do is turn off this valve, your main supply, and then you're going to need a 5-gallon bucket, which we're just going to put underneath here, and then you're going to open up this valve, and there you go. We're going to drain this is basically draining the water lines throughout the house. This will take a few minutes to completely empty. You can see how gunky and grimy that water is. That is not the water that would be making it to your taps, because this is pre-treated water. However, this is pre-treating the water and getting all of the fine sediment and silt before it moves throughout the house and clogs up all of your other fixtures. Okay, we're getting pretty close. So once you start to see that the water is starting to drain a little bit slower, there is still water inside of this cartridge. So what you're going to want to do is just slightly start to unscrew it a little bit. You can see that the flow picks up a little bit, and eventually you're going to be able to see the last little bit of water come out of the filter. Okay. So then this cartridge comes off. It's not a bad idea to clean this up a little bit and just so that you can see through it a little bit better, but that is not necessarily, that is not what's going to be filtering the water. What you really are looking at is this filter here. So I'm just going to pull out this bucket of water. So this filter, all you do is pull it out. A little bit of excess water, that happens. All you're going to do with this filter, you can see that there's all kinds of sediment and iron built up in it. So you're just really just going to swish it around in the bucket of water that you have. Your water's turned off and all your water lines are drained, so you do not have really another means of water. And it doesn't need to be squeaky clean. What you're looking for is to make sure that the screen itself is free flowing of water. If that's clogged up, obviously it's going to affect your water pressure as well as your water quality. So once you have that cleaned up, all you're doing is putting it back in. You're gonna grab your cartridge and just screw it back on. And get it hand tight and then a little bit more. Make sure that you close this valve. And once this valve is closed, you can turn water back onto the house. And it's gonna sound like a pretty big gush of water. It's important that when you open this valve, you don't hammer it open. You wanna just open it slowly. And you can hear water running throughout the house and fill in the lines. So that's all that is needed to be done to clean the spin, what we call the spin down filter. And that's, again, that spin down filter is going to need to be cleaned as needed, not necessarily a predetermined amount of time. So moving on from that, your other very important piece of maintenance for water quality is your softener system. There's not a whole lot of maintenance routinely on this, other than most importantly, this brine bin needs to have softener salt added to it, again, as needed. It's based on the volume of water that a household uses. So again, you know, your household might need 2 bags a month, where somebody else might need a bag a month. When you're filling it, this one has a little bit of salt in it. It's getting low, so it should be topped up pretty soon. But when you're filling the salt up, you should not go above the water level in the tank. Now that water level will rise as you put salt in and it displaces up. So you can usually get 2 to 3 bags in before you'd be over that water level. But you should always be able to see the water inside the brine tank. The other very important piece of maintenance, which is, again, only if the power goes out, or looks like this one hasn't been reset from daylight savings time, but the clock should read an accurate time of day. Now, right now, it's actually 7:54 a.m. So to change that time of day, all you have to do is press this square button, and then you're just going to cycle through using the down arrow in this instance to get down to 7:55 we'll go to, and then you just hit square. Then it's on to the next setting, which shows the day of the week. This is showing Saturday, which again is not accurate. So I'll just press the button once and I will go to Tuesday. Now this is your regeneration time. So what this is when the machine is going to backwash. Which is important because obviously it's cleaning all of the stuff we want out of the water, so that builds up inside the tank, requires itself to clean it out. So this is going to happen at 2 in the morning every 4 days. You don't really need to play with these settings. If you find that your water quality is not good, I would recommend getting a professional in to adjust the settings appropriately. Right now, based on the water test results for this house, it's set to every 4 days. Sometimes it's every 3 days. Sometimes it's every 5 days. But yes, it varies from well to well. In this instance, it's going to backwash at 2 a.m., which is why the original time of day in the first setting is important. I'll go back to that. It's reading 7:56. So if it thinks that it's 2 in the morning, but that clock is off by 5 or 6 hours, well, the backwash may kick in during dinner time, during bath time, during shower time, laundry, whatever, which is not a good thing because you're going to get some dirty backwash water coming out of the faucets and fixtures throughout the house. So that's why we set it to 2 in the morning. The average family is sleeping at that time of day. If not, you can adjust what time that backwash setting is just simply by going to that setting, pressing the square button and adjusting it up and down to whatever time works for you. Maybe you're a night shift person and you need a different time of day, and that's perfectly fine. However, the time of day on the clock should be accurate to the actual time of day. That's it for the well system. For routine maintenance, this softener system should be serviced annually. There's lots of filters and whatnot inside the head of the unit, which should be cleaned out as well. But other than that, you can refer to the manuals that are with each individual piece of equipment in the utility room.